Hi. Today I need to talk about something that's really important to me, and that is how do you defeat a narcissist dark triad person? I've talked about this in other videos about the villager problem. If you're in a village and there is an individual or group of individuals that is repeatedly hurting the other villagers and shrouding it in layers of lies so that people get confused. They don't know what's happening. They don't know why some people are getting hurt. Um, or they get confused and think that, oh, they deserved it or something like that. And these lies protect the perpetrator. Uh, and the perpetrator continues to hurt villagers. But if other villagers see what's going on, maybe they were hurt at some point, or maybe they know someone that was hurt and they see, oh, this is a problem. There's a problem. This group of villagers are hurting everybody. What do we do? That's a very tough problem. And I've been thinking a lot about this for the last year. Over a half a year, like 7 months. And it is fun. It's funny because I've been thinking about it. Well, actually, I've been thinking about it for years, but very intensely over the last 7 months because of personal reasons, relationships in my life, some family friends. But what's remarkable is that it has echoes and reverberations with what's happening in my country, the United States, from a political government level to the citizen. What is a dark triad person? A dark triad person is someone who's narcissistic, meaning they only care about themselves. They can only see themselves. They see other people as things that are lesser than them. They have psychopathy, meaning they carry out actions that hurt others and they don't think about the consequences. In fact, they can't feel it, or they don't let themselves feel the consequences of hurting others. And Machiavellianism, which means they will do whatever they want to get what they desire, whether it means hurting, cheating, lying, stealing, killing, whatever it takes, they'll do what they want to get what they want. That is a dark triad person. And unfortunately, I've run into I know one person personally who's like that. And I know others that share some of those characteristics, but maybe not a full-blown triad. And it's awful. It's awful to see someone self-destruct like that, because it's really when someone goes into that behavior and way of thinking, they can't come back. It's like crossing a point of no return. And that person hurts a lot of people along the way, including themselves. In fact, the person they hurt the most is themselves. It's awful to see. It's really sad. And they hurt a lot of people. So people around get hurt. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm thinking about, like, how does this happen? How do you stop this? What can you do to protect yourself? Now I see this replaying in the government with people getting disappeared to prisons in El Salvador, legal residents who did no crime. They just get sent into these foreign prisons, never to come back again. Students who speak out against the government, they get disappeared too. It's honestly a scary time in this country. that's just part of it. There's all this other chaos and lies that are told, like layers and layers of lies every day. So it's it's concerning. It makes me wonder, what can you do? So number one, I want to say that you have power. You have power as an individual. I have thought I was powerless for a long time. Actually, until very recently. I thought, in many ways, I did not have power to stop people from hurting me. But I realized that was a lie. It was an illusion. Because there are many choices that I have, an infinite number of choices that I have in every moment that I can choose. It's not A or B, but it's everything in between A and B. There are so many different ways that I can react to somebody. I can preempt them. I can speak to them, or I can walk away. I can fight them. I could kill them. I could love them. I could take care of them. There's so many different things that I could do. So many gradations of different things that it's really an infinite continuum. At every moment, I have that. And so, first thing I want to say is you have power to choose. You have control over not everything in your life, but many things in your life. I also want to say that the fears and anger that you don't address, if you don't address them, they will recreate the nightmare that you're trying to run away from. Like the nightmare that you have, the fear or what you're angry about or hurt about, if you don't deal with it, if you don't face it head on, it'll make you choose actions that will turn your fears into reality. What you resist persists. That's the phrase. And that's something that I hadn't learned until more recently. To look at, like, what am I actually afraid of? Why do I choose certain actions? Am I choosing it out of fear and anger that I haven't dealt with? Because those actions usually lead to more fear and more anger, and actually leads to the thing that I'm fearful of. Powerlessness. So you have power. You also have the ability to be self-aware, to look at yourself. That's, I think, the starting place. Being self-aware and realizing you have power. Then the next thing is now interacting with other people. Empathy is, I think, is critical to defeating someone with narcissism, because that person, now what do I mean by defeating somebody? I mean by protecting yourself, protecting your loved ones from the harm that comes from these people who are self-destructing. They've gone into a self-destructive psyche, and they're going to hurt everyone around them. How do you protect yourself from that self-destruction? That's what I mean by defeat a dark triad or narcissistic person. Empathy is critical to this, because the dark triad person does not have empathy. Or if they have it, they only use it selectively to figure out what's going to cause other people to suffer the most. And then they turn it off for everything else so that they can enact that harm and hurt people. But that is actually their weakness. Because they turn off their empathy, they cannot understand the viewpoint of other people. Because they turn off their empathy, they are vulnerable, because they are isolating themselves psychically by turning off their empathy. So there is actually a very powerful, probably narcissistic person who said that empathy is weakness. recently, a couple months ago maybe. And I found that very interesting. Because I thought, well, why would someone say that? Sure, empathy can have some weaknesses if you are not self-aware. If you are self-aware and you care for yourself, you love yourself, and you know that you can turn empathy up or down, then it's actually very powerful. Now, if you don't love yourself and you have a lot of empathy, well, the dark triad person's going to sniff you out like a shark sniffing blood and water and will take advantage of you. So you have to love yourself. You have to be caring for yourself. And you also have to know that you can turn empathy up and down. If you have it on at full blast all the time, then you feel too much. You feel too much of everything. You feel everyone's suffering, everyone's pain, even people that are not around. You feel it in the universe. I know some people who are very empathic, who feel what other people are feeling, even see what they're seeing and hear what they're hearing, even though they're not even there. They could be somewhere else in the state, and they can experience what the other person's feeling without intending to, because their empathy is just so high. That can be a problem. So is empathy a weakness? Well, it can be if you don't use it properly. Meaning, you got to love yourself, you got to be self-aware, and you got to know that you can turn the empathy up and down, and that you shouldn't have it on high all the time. But it's necessary. That person who said empathy is weakness, ironically, is the one who's crying online to people saying that, oh, why do people not like me? People are so mean to me. And so they're trying to get people to engage their empathy with them. Ha! That is funny. That makes me laugh. That brings me some joy to see someone someone choosing a path that trying to hurt people and then getting some justice, essentially. Is like, why would you choose to hurt people and say that empathy is a weakness, and then get that person self-destructs and then they cry about it? And I'm like, come on. You did it to yourself. Well, for those people, I think that empathy is a weakness for them. It's like a kryptonite, because they're not able to see themselves. They're not able to understand what other people are thinking and feeling because they've turned off their empathy. That means that everyone around, the other villagers, can use that empathy to come together, to share the truth of what's happening and isolate that dark triad person. In many ways, the dark triad person isolates themselves because it's a self-destructive behavior. People with these characteristics, they usually don't have long-term relationships because they can only keep up the facade for so long. They can only keep up the lies that they're a good person, a fabulous person that's attractive and cool to be around. They can only keep up that facade for a limited amount of time, because anyone with a logical thinking brain at some point will be like, whoa, wait a second. Things don't make sense. I think I'm being lied to. I don't think this person is actually who they are trying to make me think they are. At some point, people realize, because you can only keep up a lie for so long before people are like, yeah, you're lying. Yeah, get lost, loser. That is the self-destructive behavior of a dark triad. They isolate themselves. But unfortunately, some are very good at tricking a lot of people, lying and gaslighting a lot of people, and they can persist in positions of power, whether it's a parent or a boss or a president. It's tough. Okay, so let's see here. We've talked about being self-aware, being self-empowered, using empathy, because that person who's a dark triad turns off their empathy. So that is actually their weakness, their kryptonite. You can use your empathy to understand what it is about them that's making them do this. What are they afraid of? Because what they're afraid of is what's going to persist. So you can just like understanding your own fear so that you don't create what you're afraid of in your own life. You can feel what that person's afraid of, and you can understand, that person's afraid of abandonment. They want to be loved. They want to have a friend, but they can't. They keep sabotaging themselves. They are, in effect, creating the nightmare that they're trying to run away from. See, empathy will allow you to figure out what's driving that person. And that can help you figure out how to deal with that person. So let's see if I have an example I can give without giving away private information. Yeah, there's one person I confronted. There's one person I confronted for harming me, and I figured out that person is afraid of being abandoned, is afraid of being alone. But sadly, they self-sabotage. They hurt people around them, and they only treat people well when the people around them are giving to them, like a vampire. A vampire is a very good mythical monster to represent this problem. So a vampire has all these traits. The stories of vampires usually is a count, like Count Dracula, somebody who is in a privileged position, higher up, with wealth and prestige, a castle. They have put themselves literally above everyone else in the village, usually high up in the castle. They demand to be spoken to as Lord or some kind of deferential title. And they suck the blood of the villagers, literally suck the lifeblood out. They're a parasite. They don't create life force themselves. They're half dead themselves inside, and so they have to suck the life force out of other people. That's what vampire. And the vampire doesn't have a reflection, so they cannot see themselves, so they cannot be self-aware. That's a really cool touch to this story of this mythical monster. And you cannot go back from once you become a vampire, you cannot go back to being a regular human. It's a one-way street, kind of like becoming a dark triad. And in the story, the only way to deal with the vampire is to either scare it away, various ways to do that, garlic, silver, crosses, things like that, or you kill it. You drive a wooden stake through its heart. That's how you deal with a vampire. Now, I think the vampire story is very good because it captures a lot of the characteristics of this problem that people deal with in real life every day. And I think it's also a good way to imagine, conceptualize what's happened to the person who has dark triad. It's like a vampire took them over, like a possession. So when I think about it, I think about not killing the person who's got the problem, because in effect it's a mental illness. They got possessed by this set of characteristics that make them hurt everyone around them, including themselves, and self-sabotage and create this nightmare that they are trying to run away from, but now they drag everyone into it. It's a mental illness. In real life, you cannot drive stakes through people's hearts. You go to jail. You go to jail for murder. But I think it's interesting and helpful to think about it conceptually. To drive a stake through the heart of the vampire that's controlling that person. Give an example. I figured out there's one person bothering me, is afraid of being abandoned. They want to be loved. They want to do things, but they sabotage themselves and drag everyone else down with them. Anyone who tries to help them gets hurt. That person takes the help from others like a vampire, sucking like a parasite, without giving back or providing their own life force. Well, that person that I know, I tried to help them. But you can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves, no matter how hard you try. And I tried hard. But when I stopped trying hard, they got very angry and hurtful. I think they enjoyed when I was helping them, and wanted me to just continue helping them, like a vampire sucking the blood from me. And when I said, no, you can't do this anymore because you don't help yourself, they got extremely angry. Very angry. And it was very scary to me in the beginning. I thought, oh my gosh, this person is so scary and hurtful. Like, what am I going to do? And I thought, oh my gosh, I might be powerless to like deal with this person because they could show up anytime and hurt me. But I've been learning these things. Actually, I do have power. I do have choice. I am self-aware. I have empathy, and I know what they're afraid of. And I can see that they're self-destructing. So, I ran into them again. And this time, with these tools that I learned, that I've discovered in myself, I told that person, you ruined your own life. You chose actions that led to the suffering that you're in. I am not responsible for your suffering. You chose this, and it is your fault. You're the reason that you're so miserable. And you can't see yourself. You cannot see that this is what you're doing to yourself. You have an anger problem. What else did I say? Essentially those things. And I could tell that those things really cut straight to their heart. Literally like driving a stake into the heart of the vampire that's controlling them. They went away. And I found that actually pretty remarkable, that I have the power to deal with this. That speaking truth is like shining light. It's like the vampire. The other part to the vampire story is that they get burnt by the sunlight. When the day comes, when the light comes, they have to hide. When you speak truth, it's shining light from your mouth, from your heart, and it burns. It burns the dark triad person. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to face themselves. They don't want to gain self-awareness, because if they did, they will shrivel up. Instead of being a big vampire monster, they shrivel up to just the pathetic person that they have become. this person that can't see themselves and hurts others and blames others. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. The vampire story really is very accurate in many, many, many ways. It's remarkable. Now, the other thing I learned is that with empathy, you can use that to bring together a community. So, the other villagers, because it's much easier to deal with a narcissist, dark triad person with a community. Because the dark triad person ends up self-sabotaging, over time they end up isolating themselves into a smaller and smaller group of supporters. And then everyone else around them can see what's happening, and then they can see people that were hurt, and they can empathize with those victims and say, oh gosh, that really sucks to be disappeared to El Salvador for no good reason and not be able to come back. Or I empathize with their family that's torn apart. You can empathize with victims of abuse in the village. You can empathize with your neighbors and say, hey, this is not okay. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Would you? Would you want that to happen to you? You don't want that to happen to you? Yeah, me either. We got to do something about this. Because that dark triad person starts burning bridges and self-sabotaging, they have fewer and fewer and fewer people that are supporting them, and more people around that say, well, this is not right. This is not right, and we're not okay with this. And there will be people that were former supporters of that person who realize, like, oh man, I was really confused and gaslit by all this lies and propaganda. I've been there before. I've been gaslit by an abusive person for a long time. And it sucks. It sucks finally realizing that, oh my God, I fell for these lies that are not true, but they were pretty convincing, and then I thought badly of myself or someone else, and I did these things that I'm not proud of because I was confused. I didn't understand the truth of the situation. It sucks to be a sucker. It sucks. It sucks to admit that you were a sucker. I've been a sucker before. I've been gaslit. It really blows. Don't recommend it for anyone. But there will be people who are former supporters of this kind of abusive group of people who will wake up and say, hey, yeah, this is not right. I'm not okay with this. I thought I was on board with this, but like the more I realize what's going on, I'm just like, nah, this is not cool. There will be people like that. And so over time, there's more and more people that are saying, look, we understand what's going on now. We were confused before. There were so many lies. But yeah, it's pretty clear that this person keeps hurting everybody, including themselves. We got to do something about it. Well, what do you do? So as a community, you can decide. You can decide to disempower that person. Did they achieve some position of power? Well, take it away from them. Did they achieve some way of manipulating people through money? Well, take it away from them. There are things called prisons, and there's a reason why we have them. Not for political dissidents or immigrants or people with a particular sexual orientation. I think this is what prisons should be used for people that have gone down the dark triad path and they cannot come back. I mean, we should always give people a chance to try to come back, but if they cannot help themselves and they keep hurting everybody, they need to be isolated and separated for the safety of the rest of the group. So, yeah, those are the things that I've been thinking about to fight and defeat a narcissist or dark triad person. So self-empowerment, self-awareness, self-love, care. Empathy for not only the abusive person, but your neighbors, potentially other victims that are around you that have been victimized by this person or group of people. Speaking truth. When you speak truth, it's like a light coming out from your heart, out of your mouth. It burns the abuser, because the truth is what makes the lies and the gaslighting lose their power. And it makes that person look at themselves, which they don't want to. They're running away from themselves. So the truth brings the light. And then using the empathy to understand what's driving the narcissist or dark triad person, use the words, the truth, to drive a stake through their metaphorical heart that's controlling them. Hopefully, they'll be able to come back to being more reasonable. But most of the time, they're too far gone. Then you got to use your empathy and truth and self-awareness and care for yourself and apply it to your community and work together to cooperate, to help people that were tricked and confused and gaslit to see the truth, to come together and say, okay, we know what the problem is now. We got to do something about it because this is not okay. And then do something about it. Those are the things that I've come to. Well, I've practiced some of them, and actually, I think I practice all of them now. Yeah, in my personal life. I think it could work too on citizen population level. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, those are the things I wanted to share. If you guys and girls have other ways to deal with this kind of person. Oh, well, okay. One of the things I didn't talk about is just cutting ties. That's actually pretty effective. If you got some crazy person, the best thing to do is cut ties. Walk away. Don't talk to them. Don't try to argue, because they're not going to have a logical conversation. You cannot reason with someone who's gone down this path. So cutting ties is probably the easiest thing to do. But the problem is a lot of these people that have gone down this path seek out positions of power or ways to intimidate and hurt others that you may not be able to completely cut ties with. So that's why I've been talking about the other things. But number one, I would say, is de-escalate, walk away. But if you can't, you got to do all these other things that I talked about. If you think of other ways to deal with this, let me know down in the comments. This is something that's very dear to me, very important to me, and I think it has very wide repercussions to what we're dealing with now. I hope you have a good day or evening, wherever you are, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say.